presents a new upcoming class. Stay tuned. Sacred Bonds by Daryl Abdullah Kirk. Yes, Sacred Bonds, navigating the depths of Muslim matrimony and the family. You don't want to miss this one. Please stay tuned. Streaming on all major platforms right here on Sunnahfollowers.net.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our series entitled The Sacred Bonds of Marriage. The Sacred Bonds of Marriage. And we've covered so much information in this series. We spoke about, first of all, the conditions of a valid marriage contract. And a lot of you really learned a lot from that. At least I hope you have. You know, that there are certain conditions that have to exist in order for your marriage contract to be valid. We also spoke about how the guardian, what the guardian of the woman should look for in a potential spouse, and also what the man should look for in a potential spouse. We've also covered the rights of the husband in the marriage. We've covered the rights of the wife in the marriage. We've covered the role of the husband in the marriage. We've covered the role of the woman in the marriage. And we also talked about monogamous marriages and polygamous marriages. And I hope that every woman listening to me understands that polygamy is a right that every Muslim man has. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you have to accept it or be a part of it. Allah speaks about how if you feel that your husband will not be just with you, then you don't have to partake in it. You just let him know, you know, that this is not what I want. And divorce is good and clean. Okay. And we also spoke about the conditions of polygamy, you know, how nothing in Islam resembles anything that the non-Muslims have. You know, we don't live by the rules of the LDS community, for example. We don't live by the rules of the Mormons, the Mormon church. You know, our way of life, even when it comes to polygamy, has guidelines that were set forth for us by Allah, for our protection, for our betterment. And we don't imitate other people's. And we don't emulate other people's. We don't have sister wives. There's no such thing as a sister wife in Islam. When a man marries another woman, takes on a second or third or fourth wife, it's none of your business. It's none of your concern as a Muslim woman. His children with those other women, they're his and her kids. They're not yours. And we discussed how if a man takes on two or three or four wives, those are all separate households, separate families. We're not one big happy family. There is no one big happy family in Islam. If a man has four wives, he has four families that he has to take care of. You know, we don't have meetings either. And I really want to emphasize that, because that is not an Islamic thing either. That's something that the Mormons do, the LDS. They have meetings where all the women sit down together with their rights and their roles and share their bank. We don't share bank accounts. We don't share nothing. Even your relationship with your husband is separate and different than his relationship with his other wives. So we covered polygamy from A to Z. And as I said, it's something that's not for everyone. You know, not everyone meets the criteria for polygamy. You have to be a certain type of man A man who is a real man. I'm talking M-A-N, capital M-A-N. You can't be some little weakling. All right. And even for the women have to be strong, self-assured, self-confident women, because otherwise it can mess you up. It's a mind thing. All right, so we discussed marriage in those details. And today what I'm going to do is speak about some more qualities and characteristics that the husband and wife should have with each other. And let's put the PowerPoint. I forgot I'm using two different computers. Let's put the PowerPoint up here. All right, inshallah, you guys should be able. Yeah, inshallah, you can see my screen. Yes, tonight we're going to speak about upholding Islamic values within the marriage, within the home. You know, as Muslims, we have our own identity. We have our own lifestyle. Our culture is Islam. Islam is not just a religion. It's a way of life. It's a culture. It's a lifestyle. And it is our lifestyle. It is our culture. And there are certain values that we must uphold within the home and outside the home, and collectively and individually as Muslims. And something that Allah hates, he hates so much that it will be a darkness on the day of judgment, is oppression. Islam is not about hurting or oppressing people. That's why Allah made the laws and the rules. Unlike the Mormons is a man-made religion. They make their own laws. They make their own rules. Our laws, rules, and guidelines were designed by Allah. And cowardliness and deceit are both shadows that lurk within the heart of man. Remember, we talked about how Allah tells us that the human soul, the soul is criminal by nature. The soul is attracted to those things that are dirty and bad for it. And so there are certain bad characteristics that we have as humans because of the soul, that if we don't tame them, they can stand between our heart and Allah. And deceitfulness and cowardliness are two such things. And here as Muslims, Islam teaches us, you know, the dangers of being an oppressor, the dangers of being deceitful, being a liar. Allah hates a liar. Allah hates a two-faced person. Allah hates those type of people. And Allah tells us that in many verses of the Quran, and our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam shared it with us in many authentic hadiths. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an example for us, and he taught us the importance of honesty, the importance of integrity, the importance of having good character and not being a deceitful, dishonest person. Listen to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He said, truthfulness leads to righteousness, and righteousness leads to paradise. A man will tell the truth until he becomes written. His name becomes written in the book of Allah as a truthful person. But on the other hand, falsehood leads to evil, and evil leads to the hellfire. And a man will lie until his name is written in the book of Allah as a liar. So we have to avoid being a deceitful, cowardly, dishonest person. Remember, there's a hadith whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the believer is just a human being, and the believer is not perfect. The believer can fall victim to the sins just like any other human. However, there is one sin, one characteristic that the true believer doesn't have, and that's dishonesty. The believer can never be dishonest. He or she can never lie. Okay? And that is so true. I look at the people I know in my life. You know, I know some people who are born Muslim, but are they practicing? No. But one thing about them, they don't lie, a few of them. They'll admit anything. They just don't have it within them to lie. And I say, as long as that person remains upon the truth like that, at least I can just say, oh, well, he's a sinful Muslim, and I can keep making dua for this person. Okay? We should all be able to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, am I a thief? Am I a liar? Okay? Am I dishonest? Do I break my promises? Do I break my trust? If you have any of those type of characteristics, then that's a sign that you need to work on yourself, that you still need to continue to work on becoming a better believer. So, truthfulness and righteousness, honesty, this is very important for all of us to have as Muslims. And especially if you are a husband, especially if you are a wife. Remember, as the husband, you are the head of the household. Your wife has to be able to trust you. And if you are a man that's in polygamy, you have more than one wife, you really have to be a man of integrity. Okay? Also, if you are a woman, your husband, you're supposed to guard in his absence what he would have you guard. He's got to be able to trust that you will do that. And Allah admonishes people who are deceptive. Allah admonishes those of us who are not honest. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning: do not mix the truth with falsehood, nor conceal the truth when you know what it is. I want all of you to look at your marriages. Are you honest with your husband? I want you brothers to look at your wives. Are you honest with your wives? Do you mix truth with falsehood? Do you hide what you know to be the truth? Of course, there's exceptions. There's instances where a person can tell a fib to save someone's life, or to bring friends together or something. But are you a dishonest husband? Are you a dishonest wife? So this verse underscores the importance of upholding the truth and avoiding being deceitful. That's why a lot of the scholars will tell you, yes, it's true. A man doesn't have to tell his wife when he marries another woman. He don't have to tell her, especially if he knows telling her is going to cause the relationship with him and her to go sour. But a lot of the scholars say that you should let her know, because honesty is always the best policy. Also, Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, indeed, those who invent falsehood about Allah will never succeed. This is another reason why I'm telling you, all of you, to be careful using the word haram. Because whenever we say something is haram, if Allah didn't say that it was haram, then you're lying on him. You're inventing a falsehood about Allah. That's why I tell you, brothers, stop saying that makeup is haram, because makeup is not haram. There is no verse. I challenge any human being or jinn on this planet to bring the clear nas that says makeup is haram. You're not going to find it. And I can bring you a lot of clear nas from Bukhari and Muslim alone that show that the Prophet's wives even wore makeup. And they are the mothers of the believers. They're better than you. So be careful inventing lies, inventing falsehood about Allah, because maybe that's why this ummah is in the shambles that we're in. We have to stop lying on Allah so much. Okay? So this verse serves as a reminder of the grave consequences of dishonesty and falsehood, both in this life and the hereafter. Remember, whatever we do in this world is going to come back and bite us in the derriere when we in that grave. When the angel of death comes to each and every one of us and takes our soul, I'm sorry, we're going to be held accountable for the things we said and did. And again, as a Muslim man, you are the head of the household. You are the head of your family. You are the imam of your family. Every man who is married is an imam. You are the imam of your household. Allah is going to hold you accountable for your wives and your children, their character, and all of that. And as a man, you have to be the epitome example of courage and integrity, just as the prophet was with his wives and his family and his companions. And in order to be that way, you have to learn about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and pattern yourself after him. That's why I said, even in this book, I skipped over a lot of that stuff about polygamy, because if it's not practiced the way the Prophet Muhammad practiced it, it's not going to work. I'm sorry. Can't nobody like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of you are those who are best to your wives, and ain't nobody better than me in how I treat my wives. Unless you brothers are practicing polygamy the way he did, doing it the way he did, it's going to be a bunch of fitna. So you have to learn about him. He's our role model. He's our example on how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to be a stepfather, how to be a friend, how to be an imam of your home, an imam of the mosque, an imam of a whole nation of people. And you have to look at his character. He wasn't a wussy. He was not a wussy. He was not weak. He was just the way Allah commanded him to be. Allah commanded him to be gentle with the believers, but be harsh and stern with the hypocrites and unbelievers. And that's how our prophet was. Okay? He was kind, merciful, understanding, and patient with the believers. But when he knew he was dealing with an unbeliever or a hypocrite or anyone who wanted to argue the laws of Allah, he became a ferocious lion. So we have to uphold the dignity within ourselves that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam upheld, and also show that dignity towards our wives, our children, the believers, like the Prophet did, and be stern and be harsh and firm with the hypocrites. That's where we're falling today. We're letting the hypocrites walk all over us. We're letting the unbelievers make fools out of us. But we're harsh with the believers. We slander Muslim women. We slander Muslim men, but we allow the Kafir men to make jokes out of us. And again, everything that we talked about polygamy applies to the monogamy marriages as well. Okay? Again, you should live with your wife and children under the principles of love, respect, kindness, and justice, just as the man who has more than one family has to implement that. Okay? Remember, Allah hates oppression. Allah hates deceit. You have to be honest with your wife, with your children, even if it's a one family home. Okay? So, the path to having a thriving, good family, it's all based on how well are you upholding the guidelines, the laws, and the rules set forth by Allah. It's all based on who are your role models.